Hey up, welcome back. And yeah, I'm in the car, but we're going to be talking about motorcycles, of course, so stick around, stay tuned. So today, I'm going to talk about insurance and motor vehicles, and particularly motorcycles. So now then, a couple of questions for you to contemplate for the next minute and a half before I give you the answer. Give you a couple of scenarios then. Let's take it in terms of my Royal Enfield Interceptor 650. It could be any bike though, couldn't it? So scenario number one then. I'm in the process of insuring my Interceptor, and during the insurance application fill in all the requisite online forms, and then when it comes to the bit which says do you require pillion cover, do you require insurance cover for a passenger, I tick no. I don't carry a pillion, therefore I do not require pillion insurance. And so on that basis I get my insurance, I pay my money, and I'm good to go. A couple of days later I'm riding down the road and I see somebody I know side of the road, and I've got a spare helmet with me, so I thought, I wonder if I want to come for a ride. Why not? Here you go, spare helmet, put it on, jump on the back, let's go for a spin. All good. Off we toddle, blasting down road. And unfortunately, halfway down the road, the divisional black cat runs in front of me. I chuck the bike down the road and I badly injure my pillion passenger. Here's the question for you. Is my insurance invalid? Right? So I've got my insurance, and when I made the application I made it clear that I didn't require pillion cover. But nonetheless, and knowing this, I've allowed a pillion to take a ride on the back of my bike. I've had an accident and he or she has received some injuries. Is my insurance invalid? Is it void? What do you think? Scenario one. Scenario number two. Again, my Royal Enfield Interceptor 650, and I decide it hasn't got enough power for me, so I think I'll have one of these upgrade kits, one of these big bore kits to take it up to 850 cc's and a lot more than its current 47 brake horsepower. So I've got my insurance on this bike, and when I took my insurance out, I've made it perfectly clear it's a 47 brake horsepower 650 cc motorcycle. But then I have this conversion done. I get a professional garage to bore the engine out to 850 cc and to nearly double the brake horsepower. So I've got my new fast Interceptor. I take a ride down the road and I'm giving it the beans, enjoying all this new power. And next thing, I lose it. I chuck the bike down the road, and in the process I go into the side of the road and I strike a couple of pedestrians who are badly injured. So on this occasion, the question, is my insurance invalid? Because I've insured a 47 brake horsepower 650 cc motorcycle. I've upgraded it to 850 cc's with a lot more power. I've not told the insurance company, and I've gone out for a ride, and as a consequence I've injured two members of the public. Is my insurance valid, or is it invalid, and is it void? So what do you think about them two scenarios then? Well, the answer actually in both cases is no. The policy is not invalid and the policy is not void as respects third-party coverage. Okie dokie. So not only is it not invalid and not void, but it is mandatory in law that the insurance company honour those third-party liabilities, notwithstanding that I have failed to declare during my insurance application facts known to me. And so basically I've told a few porcupines to get cheaper insurance, but it does not and cannot invalidate the policy. insofar as it applies to third-party liabilities. Now, you might be thinking, well, that doesn't sound right, but let me sort of take you through why that is. And those of you that are familiar with the channel, you'll know that I'm a retired police officer. I spent 30 years in the police, retired in 2013. About 2.5 of those years were in the road traffic department. So obviously I got a lot of legal qualifications relating to road traffic law, albeit that was some time ago, but notwithstanding that, it's basically the same now as it was then, with 1 or 2 minor amendments. So insurance then, well, it's covered by section 143 of the Road Traffic Act. Section 143, and that's under a part of the Road Traffic Act called Part 6. So the Road Traffic Act has parts, sections, subsections and schedules. So it's all captured, if you like, by Part 6 of the Road Traffic Act, and the bit that specifically creates the offence of not having any insurance is under section 143 of the Road Traffic Act. But it doesn't talk about driving. I mean, there are parts of traffic law that do talk about driving a motor vehicle, such as driving licences and due care and attention and drink driving and all of that. But when it comes to insurance and 1 or 2 other things like MOT and 1 or 2 others, driving is not mentioned. It's all about 3 words: use, cause and permit. So you either use a motor vehicle, or you cause a motor vehicle to be used, or you permit a motor vehicle to be used. And what section 143 of the Road Traffic Act basically says, that it's an offence to use or cause or permit to be used a motor vehicle on a road or other public place when there is not in place, in respect of the driver of that motor vehicle, such a policy of insurance as complies with Part 6 of the Road Traffic Act. And then there's a few other sections or subsections that say how that insurance needs to comply. We didn't actually get into that. So that's the offence. So probably worthwhile just having a look at a couple of definitions rather. So first off, motor vehicle. And a motor vehicle is defined as a mechanically propelled vehicle intended or adapted for use on a road. So basically, obviously, a car, a motorcycle, anything of that kind that either was manufactured to be used on a road or is intended by the user to be used on a road or has been adapted for that purpose. So that sort of covers, you know, if you buy a bike that's exclusively a track bike, it's not intended for use on the road by the manufacturer. But of course, if it's your intention to take it on the road, or if you adapt it, for example, by putting lights on and a horn and all the rest of it, then it becomes a motor vehicle by definition, by dint of your intention around its use, or by dint of any adaptation to the vehicle. So it captures just about everything. Mechanically propelled, well, it basically means it's got its own motive power. So whether that's an internal combustion engine, or whether it's an electric motor, or whatever it is, whatever means of mechanical propulsion you manage to magic up, if you're not propelling it with your own under your own steam with your legs and arms or whatever, then it's mechanically propelled. And a road, well, under the Road Traffic Act, now it's a different definition for a road under the Vehicles Excise Act. So for like vehicle tax and for license plates, registration plates, it's a different bit of legislation. It's a different definition. But under the Road Traffic Act, the vast majority of road traffic offences, a road is defined as a road to which the public have access, and includes bridges over which a road passes. So you can see both definitions are fairly comprehensive. Most roads and most driving circumstances, vast majority are going to be covered by that definition. So yeah, section 143 insurance then. So we'll come on to why those two scenarios that I've given you would not invalidate the insurance. But let's talk about use course permit. So if you use a motor vehicle, well, if you're driving a motor vehicle, you're using it. Anybody that drives a motor vehicle uses a motor vehicle. So it's an offence to use a motor vehicle without insurance in place. And then cause, that's a little bit different. That implies that the offender has some sort of coercion, some degree of authority over the driver. So that might include, for example, a transport manager at a company that instructs an employee to take out a vehicle, knowing that there's no insurance in place. So that transport manager then would be causing the use of that vehicle without an insurance. And in fact, another bit of that legislation says that even though that transport manager may not have known that the insurance wasn't in place, he still commits the offence, because these offences under the Road Traffic Act by and large are what's called offences of strict liability. Means you commit them whether you know about it or not. So speeding's a classic example there. You might well not know that you were speeding, but if you get caught speeding, you're caught speeding, you don't have a defence. So that's typical of the Road Traffic Act. So that's cause, and permit is basically, if you have a son or daughter that's got a driving licence and you allow them to use your car and there's no insurance cover in place, then you commit the offence of permitting the use of that vehicle without insurance. Now there are some subtle defences to the offence. For example, if you're an employee of a company and you're caught driving a company car without insurance, then you don't commit the offence, provided that you can prove that you did not know nor had reason to believe that there wasn't any insurance in place, that you were in fact driving as part of your employment. And that being the case, you would certainly have a defence to that charge. But those defences are few and far between, to be fair. And then there are certain vehicles that don't require insurance. So you might not know this, but police vehicles, fire service vehicles, ambulances, when they're being used for their correct purpose, do not require insurance. Now, having said that, of course, the majority of, if not all, police forces and fire services and ambulance services have insurance, but it's not a requirement in law. And the sort of basic rationale for that is that these massive organisations that have a great deal of capital at their disposal will be able to honour any sort of injury or damage claim themselves. But obviously, being pragmatic, these organisations do by and large ensure that they have insurance policies in place. In fact, when I was in the police, our insurance was with Zurich, I believe. I don't know if it still is, but it's not a requirement in law. The rest of us, yeah, definitely need insurance. So those are the rare exceptions to the requirement to have insurance in place. So those are your insurance offences: using, causing or permitting the use of a motor vehicle on a road, basically without insurance in place. So how does it come about then that in circumstances like this, the two that I've outlined with the uninsured, quote unquote uninsured pillion, and the modifications to engine size and performance that I've not told the insurance company about, or that I've actually lied about because I had them done before I took the insurance out? Either scenario, it's the same circumstances. How does that come about then? Well, it comes about from section 148 of the Road Traffic Act. And what section 148 subsection 2 outlines are 8 circumstances where third-party insurance cannot be invalidated. And I won't bore you with the entire list of 8, but I'll give you 2 of them, the 2 that apply in these circumstances. One is rather that third-party insurance cannot be invalidated in relation to any passengers or the number of passengers carried on the vehicle. So if you have a policy of insurance in place, and you've got to have a policy of insurance in place for that vehicle, but if you've got that policy of insurance and it doesn't cover you for a pillion passenger, or it's a car and it doesn't cover you for passengers, or if it's for example a car and you're using it for private hire or taxi purposes, commercial purposes, for fare paying passengers, but you're not insured for that purpose, that exception is covered by section 148 subsection 2 of the Road Traffic Act. It can't be invalidated. And the other one is to do with the power and the size of the engine, and the value of the vehicle for that matter. So what that basically says is, providing you've got an insurance policy in place for the vehicle that you're using, if you're actually driving a vehicle, whether from day one or subsequently modified, it has a bigger and more powerful engine than you stated in your insurance application, and your insurance was granted on the basis of the facts that you presented at the time, the erroneous facts, then again that policy cannot be invalidated. And this sort of part of the Road Traffic Act's not really well known. Most police officers won't know about this, although I would expect road policing specialists to know about this. It's bread and butter. But most people don't really know about this. And it's quite significant in one way and yet not very significant in another. So before you go running off thinking, bloody hell, I can double the size and power of my engine and I don't have to declare it to the insurance, and I can get a cheaper policy, or bloody hell, I can take pillion passengers all day long and I don't have to pay extra for it. Right, in the event of an accident, the third party cover for anybody that you injure other than yourself, anybody that you injure, that remains in place. So in case of the pillion that gets injured, that's still in place, and in relation to the pedestrians that get injured on the back of the modified motorcycle, that is still in place. And the insurance companies are required by law to honour those third-party liabilities. But, no, I say third-party liabilities. So don't be thinking, if you get involved in that sort of game, and you're daft enough, that your fully comp insurance is going to cover you, because it isn't. It's third-party liabilities. So the only cover that remains in place is for the third party that you cause injury to, or the third party that you cause damage to. So worth knowing that. So any other claims for your bike being written off, or for your broken leg or whatever, out the window if you've got fully comprehensive policy, because they won't honour it. And the other point is, if you do get involved in either one of those scenarios or one of the other 6, and you end up having an accident and looking at an insurance claim, if in that event the insurance company pays out, and it will have to pay out the third party liability, you can be sure that they're going to come after you for the money. So you don't get away with it at all. In fact, there's a specific part of the legislation under Part 6 of the Road Traffic Act that allows insurance companies to pursue the civil recovery of anything they've had to pay out third party wise in relation to a policy about which you've lied or about which you haven't come clean. So it's all fairly well tied up one way or another, but it's quite interesting. There's also another thing. There's if you from the get-go have taken out a policy and have deliberately said that the engine is smaller than it is and the engine is less powerful than it is from the get-go, then there's a little bit of legislation which may or may not apply here, but in principle I suppose it does, under the Theft Act, because there's an offence under the Theft Act called obtaining a pecuniary advantage by deception. Now it normally applies to things like if you get a job with a better rate of pay by lying about your qualifications, for example. Or another one would be like an overdraft. If you get an overdraft facility with your bank by lying about your income and your outgoings, then you commit an offence, a prima facie offence of obtaining a pecuniary advantage by deception. Because you might never use that overdraft facility. You might never spend a penny of it. So you're not obtaining money, property by deception. You're obtaining a facility, an opportunity, a pecuniary advantage. And I suppose it's similar with insurance. When you get an insurance policy, you're not getting a material product, you're not getting a tangible object, and you're not getting money as such. But you are getting a potential advantage in terms of remuneration for any losses you might incur in an accident. So there's that sort of on the periphery, that criminal side of things under the Theft Act on the periphery, if you're going to lie about the size of and power of your motorcycle. So hope that was of some interest to you. Like I say, it's a little bit of road traffic law that most people are not unaware of, but for goodness sake, do not read into this that I'm saying to you. There's certain things you can lie about on your policy and get away with it. You bloody well can. Not a chance. It'll come back and get you. And you're a fool if you take that chance, because of course not having insurance in place is one of the most serious road traffic offences. It'll get you a minimum of 6 points first time around, and rightly so. It's absolutely crucial. So yeah, that was of some interest to you. So yeah, the offence of using a motor vehicle on a road without having in place insurance, and the sort of subtleties around that particular aspect of legislation under Part 6 of the Road Traffic Act. So I hope that was of some interest to you. If it was, please click a like, please subscribe, please feel free to share this video. And until the next time, ride safe, be kind, and I'll see you soon. Toodle pip. Now, what I should point out, having gone through all of that, of course, is that this is the law as it applies in England and Wales. Okay, so if you're anywhere else, if you're in Scotland or you're not in the UK at all, or whatever, this is the law as it applies in England and Wales, the Road Traffic Act. Important to clarify that point.